Okay, so up to this point, all of the damage and HP has been displayed in the debug log. Obviously, that needs to eventually get to the screen for the player themselves to see. So we're going to create some text objects. So let's go to game object, create empty, and call this enemy text. So click on it to highlight it, and then we're going to add component, and this time rather than adding a script, we're going to add a mesh, and we're going to choose text mesh. It adds two components, the mesh renderer and the text mesh. For whatever reason, it starts off with a bunch of settings that aren't terribly useful. So I'm going to reduce the character size, or else it'll be very blurry. Font size, all depends what you're looking to do. We can tweak that as we go along, and choose a font. And we'll just put a 0 in here just so we can see it. And there it is. So let's make it a little bit bigger. Now, just like all the other objects, as we said, they have order in layer. Well, for this, it doesn't explicitly let you change the order in the layer, so you have to do that with a script. We'll get to that in a minute, and we'll apply the script to all the relevant objects at once. So now let's just kind of rinse and repeat. We can actually copy this object, paste, change the name to Caro text. Just move them over. That way you don't have to redo all those settings. And then we're going to create a couple more. This is going to be now this one is going to be a little bit different. That's why I didn't just copy it. So we're going to make this one. This will be the same. Make this a little bit bigger. I'm going to make this bigger as well. The reason for it is these are going to be in the HUD, whereas this one is actually going to appear on the enemy when you're doing damage, which is pretty standard. In RPGs, you actually see the on-screen damage in addition to what their total hit points are. And this one we will copy. And we'll just call it damage text 2. One will be for an attack such as we currently have skill 1 or skill 2. Whereas skill 3 is the damage over time, so one would be the damage over time, and one would be the immediate attack. That way you're showing how much damage each attack is doing. And now what we have to do is we have to add a script. So in this case, we're going to create the script down here, and I'll show you why. And so we'll call this damage control. Just call it text control. And if you highlight multiple objects, so click on one, hold shift, click at the bottom to highlight them all, you can just drag and drop that text and do that. So you can actually add a component to multiple objects at once. So if it turns out you're partway through a game and you add new functionality and you don't want to mess with the pre-existing scripts, you can create a whole new script and just drag and drop it onto them all at once. So that way if you have like 100 items, 100 objects, you don't have to click it 100 times. You can just select them all and apply it at once. So we open up text control, and when it opens, we're going to use a new statement we haven't used before. We're going to use get component. As the name suggests, you are changing a component that is currently attached to that object. As you can see, they're called components So it's not a coincidence that it's using the same word. You're actually changing these components with code. Looks like a greater than sign, and it is the greater than sign, but it's being used as a form of a bracket in this case. So we're saying which component we want to change. Well, we want to change, actually in this case, we want to change the renderer. Specifically, we want to change the sorting order. And we'll just put this on top. We'll say 10. Again, the greater the number, the higher on top it is. Let's save that. Come back here. And that's already been applied to all of these. So if I drag this over here, drag this, oops, hero text, and that's the enemy. I'm going to quickly run it. And as you can see, they are indeed on top. Go back to our script. So that's an example where you want something in the start section. You want that to happen as soon as the object is created. Now in the update section, again, we're going to use get component. This time we are going to use the text mesh, and the specific attribute of that component I'm going to change is text. And what this is going to be is a combination of string and variables. We'll put an operator in there which does a line break, and then we will put in enemy HP. Now the problem is this script is attached to all these objects, and I don't want to change them all. I only want to change the one that's called enemy text. So we're going to add a condition. We're going to use if. Game object simply refers to whatever object this script is attached to, and then you can check various attributes. We're going to check the game object name. And the game object name is enemy text. So the game object is enemy text. That's its name. So this checks and then does this if it's that name. So we'll run this just to show it working. So only the object with that name got changed. So now we're going to take that code, make a couple changes. This time it will be hero text. So hero. Now both where it says enemy and hero, those can also be replaced with variables. So depending what enemy is going to pair, it's going to have its own name. Maybe your character can have his name generated by the player, so that too could be a variable. And we will, I'm just got to make sure we change the HP as well. Save that and run it again. And to make sure, so enemies changed, heroes changed. Let's just tweak that a little bit. So now let's put in an extra line of code, not extra line of code, excuse me, let's just put in a little bit more text. And that's just something that you can tweak to make it look exactly how you want it to look. So now when we run it, what should happen is the damage should apply. I'm going to click on number 1. Sure enough, the enemy got damaged, hero got damaged. I'm going to click on number 2. Enemy got damaged, hero got damaged. I'm going to click on number 3. Then we'll go back to number 2. Sure enough, it did the math right. It did 80 points of damage, 50 plus 30. So 50 for skill number 2, and then 30 for the DOT.